the window team position swap.
What's up, guys? Let's see here. Brian, hello. SML, hello. The Irish Island, hello. Traumatized audience, hello. The Heidi place, hello. How's everybody doing today? I hope you guys are doing great. Have I seen Mr. Nobody against Putin? I haven't. Is that documentary about Ukraine? Is it the teacher one? I have not seen it, but I think that's on my list. Irish Island, we love you loving these streams. Happy Monday. What's up? Hi. We on Twitch too? Yeah. All right, let's see here. Let me fire everything up here. Give me 2 seconds. Now we do the streaming stuff. Boom, boom, boom. We got all of the news ready to go. We're going to be talking about Iran. We're going to be talking about Kanye. Controversy in the good old UK. We're going to be talking about Savannah Guthrie back on the Today Show today. We are going to be delving into all of that stuff, but we're going to start with Artemis because we need something that brings us together. And Artemis does so in such a wonderful way. Max Columbus. So yeah, we're leading with Artemis. And I don't care who knows it. If you're watching right now below me, that's Artemis's live stream. We've been monitoring it throughout the day. Just a little while ago, they went through that 40-minute line of sight loss, basically a communication blackout where, Houston, NASA, not in control. Mission Control handed everything over to Artemis. Artemis was all by themselves, just circling the backside of the moon. And everything's according to plan. I mean, they came back on the other side and they have reestablished connection, reestablished transmission, and they are now, well, I spoke too soon. Look at this blue screen. Things are a little bit hit and miss when it comes to deep space, deep human space. So yeah, very excited. I got my NASA badge. Wait, I want a NASA badge. Richie, that sounds pretty great. Let's see, Artemis and the US. That's not very nice. Let's see here. Audience, this is NBC News Behind the Scenes with God. Ah, that's right. That is right. So if you are just tuning in and you're like, what is going on? Well, this is the news. Actually, it's the pre-party to the news. We are about 12 minutes away from the news starting, and this is my show. Stay tuned now. We shoot over here at the Universal Studios lot, but I'm part of the NBC News Network. And so we are the West Coast bastion of NBC Network News. It starts in 30 Rock for the Today Show, for NBC News Now, the morning show, and then it goes a little bit west towards Washington. Then you got Hallie Jackson, you got Meet the Press. Then it goes back over to New York for Top Story, Nightly News. Then boom, to finish us out, we got West Coast holding it down right here at Universal Studios. My show, NBC News's Stay Tuned. And as you'll notice from our show, it's a little bit more of like a West Coast vibe to the national news. We do a lot of focus on high-tech stuff, future of everything, Artemis, space, but yes, we also give you all the news throughout the day. West Side, wait, hold on. The Irish Island, do you guys have a West Side? An Irish West Side? That's West, I mean, I'm trying to think of the geography. I gotta look at a Irish map. Ireland. What's on the west side of Ireland? Ooh, here we go. Just gotta, interesting. Galway, Dingle. Cork's not very west. How about Belmullet? All right, there is a west coast of Ireland, and it seems like it's very well represented. I'm on the island Skellig? Is that right? That sounds like something from The Witcher. County Mayo, home of my wife's family. Off Cary. Oh, very cool. All right, Twitch, what's happening over there? Hi. Let me see. What? Wait, hold on. There's multiple. What? Is this right? Wait, hold on. Are there 19 people watching on Twitch? Dude, Kevin, are you watching this? This is huge. What? Look, we got Twitch, we got YouTube, TikTok. We've got a bunch of people watching on TikTok too, but TikTok's always here. Twitch, this is the first time we've got like a bunch of people. This is cool. Okay, so Twitch, welcome to the club. TikTok, you already know what's up. YouTube, you already know what's up. I wish I was playing video games right now. I'm not playing video games. I'm playing this game called The News, and we're in the Universal lot. This is, stay tuned, this is my real life studio, and in just a little bit, we're gonna be talking about all of the day's news. Dang, yeah, it is true. We got a bunch of people from Ireland and Britain. Wow, we're here to make history. Dave is digital, let's go. The Irish raided us. Richie, thanks so much. Guys, I'm sorry, if you're watching on YouTube, I don't know, I'll try to keep the chats, relevant to everybody here. Okay, so 9 minutes. Let me tell you what we're gonna be talking about with Artemis. So first things first, do we have a signal? Yes, we do. Does it have like a very, very crazy sun glare? Yeah, that's what we're seeing right there. But let me pull this up. I think we're gonna be talking to Danny Olivas, an astronaut. He's gonna be joining us. We're also gonna be talking to our guy in, I think, Cape Canaveral. That is the one and only Aaron Gilchrist. I think he's in Cape Canaveral. No, he's in Atlanta, but he was in Cape Canaveral. And yeah, we're gonna be talking about, I don't know, the Van Allen belt. I wanna know about radiation. Did you know that they have these little radiation monitors, like Chernobyl kind of monitors, but way more high tech? So much so that they have, I think they're called Avatar analog sensors, where they've basically taken a piece of bone marrow from the astronauts, and then they cloned their cells, and then they are exposing them to the radiation, and they have this ability to monitor the cloned cells. It's insane. Anyway, I'm not sure if we're gonna get into that granular detail for the mainstream news, but I'm hoping that we steer the conversation in that direction. Has NBC considered adding more shows after yours on NBC News Now? That's a great idea. Max, you should audition, because I know you are a news wizard. Where's Lisa? Well, usually Lisa's down here or up here, but she is off today. And we want her to be in full recovery mode because she's still working on healing her ski injury. I watch NBC News on YouTube, so the weekend we get back-to-back episodes of Dateline for 2 days. Or did you? Let's see. Right now, clones, they've kind of cloned cells, and they are monitoring those cells for radiation exposure as they go through the Van Allen belts. The Van Allen belt, it's like, think of the gravity of Earth, kind of like you got the North Pole, you got the South Pole, right? And then you've got the magnetic, the magnetic force field around Earth kind of gives us the atmosphere and all that stuff. Well, in that crazy magnet shape, it basically creates somewhat of like a donut.
At NBC's Courtney Cuby is joining us now. Courtney, do we know what brought down that F-15 in the first place?
So that's a big donut shape, and
yeah, we do, Gotti, and it is fascinating. So, despite the fact that the U.S.
traps radiation, so they have to pass through it, but it's not what we're hearing. They've got so much shielding on the Artemis ship, and they've got so much shielding, inside on the windows, on all that stuff, that it's kind of like getting a CAT scan, or maybe even less than getting a CAT scan. But outside, yeah, radiation not too great. But they only pass through that for a short period of time. Yes, they did. Richie, They did find that
It was a decision that
F-15 pilot. They
stunned
found the
much of the world.
F-15 pilot
The United
right
States
away.
joining
I'm not sure if you
Israel
guys
in a
can hear
direct
this.
military strike on Iran. And shortly after
They
those
found that
missiles began to fall,
F-15
Secretary of State
pilot
Marco
pretty much
Rubio
right
was
away,
asked
and
about
then
the
they found
war's
weapons
legal
officers.
justification.
Two people in that
Let me explain to you guys this in
that
simple
ejected.
English.
The weapons
Okay?
officer
Iran
used
is run
that
by lunatics,
SEER
religious
search and
fanatic
rescue
lunatics.
Rubio said that on March
evasion
3rd.
training that
Sentiments
they
like
do
that
at
go
SEER
back
school,
decades.
and
In 1951,
basically,
Iran
like,
elected a man named Mohammad Mossadegh as
beasted
prime
it
minister,
up
who
this
eventually
crazy,
nationalized
huge
Iran's oil
mountain
industry.
and
At the
was able
time,
to
Britain controlled
evade,
Iran's oil wealth
capture,
and saw
and then
nationalization
the
as a
president was
direct
talking
threat.
about
Dr. Mossadegh,
how
speaking
they
in
were
French,
watching him
reiterated the Persian attitude to the oil dispute.
They weren't
To
sure
ensure the
if he
UK
was
had
still
access to
there or if there was a human there. Then they saw movement, but then he wouldn't exactly get into what the CIA was watching him on. Pretty wild stuff. Anyway, it was somewhat of it was a very Trumpian news conference where, like, you know, the ball goes in a bunch of different directions, and afterwards you just try to figure out exactly where things stand. And for one, we're trying to figure out where the idea of a ceasefire stands, because we're hearing Iran giving a framework for a ceasefire on their end. We're kind of hearing the same from the United States, but then Trump said a bunch of stuff today, so not sure exactly where it landed. But we got Garrett Hake over at the White House. He's going to talk to us about that. Was it a Lego model? Oh, shoot, I missed what you said. Don't forget about Weekend Today, SML, that's right. Let's see. What else are you guys saying? Boom, 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 boom. Davis Digital. Dude, I like this Twitch audience. The Van Allen belt does go great with these jeans, unless you want jeans that are intact and your DNA not messy. Let's see. Jesse Guidewire is supposed to be a fight after school by the multi or what? That's not good. Tell them that there's too many fights happening in this world already. We don't need any more. Sunday Today, yes, SML, and the Weekend Today, for sure. Worst audiences on Twitch? No way. So far, they're super nice. This is great. But we're dropping 13. Still, this is like 10 times more than it normally is. All right. Yeah, that was an interesting surprise, Dave. We're gonna do that. We're gonna be talking about that. He did. He posted on Truth Social, "Open the effing straight, you crazy bastards." And then he had some statements about it today. So
2 minutes.
you know, makes you wonder, like, how much has the war cost so far? I know in the first opening days, you know, billions, but now, especially after this weekend, what is it at? We lost several C-130s that were blown up by special forces because they didn't want that to fall into the wrong hands. Lost some helicopters that were also in the C-130s that were offloaded to go rescue the pilot and then brought back. But yeah, I think there were up to 7 different diversions that were happening. So they were flying sorties all around and bombing. It was a crazy weekend. Space time, yes. Yeah, the Irish island, that's right. We are quoting the president. So yeah, go ahead, Liz. Did you say something? Olivas, yeah, got it.
1 minute.
Funny, 3 of us, no.
Starting at the big wall.
All right, we're starting at the big wall, guys. Let's go. We got 50 seconds left. All right, here we go. So if you guys are just starting to watch the Heidi Place, we're on the Universal Studios lot, and we're going to start right over here. And so what we're going to do is we are going to come in, introduce the Artemis segment, and then we're going to launch into everything that's happening right now. Hi, Buffalo, New York. That's going to happen in about 20 seconds. That's why Big Mike is stressing. Look at how big he is compared to me. All right, Artemis coming up, 10 seconds. Oh, shoot, forgot to do this. We're good.
4,
Hi, I'm Gotti Schwartz, and today, what a historic day for our species. A few moments ago, the 4 Artemis astronauts pushing further into space than any human has ever gone and getting glimpses of parts of the moon our eyes have never seen. Now, their flyby was close, but space is relative, and for now, close means 4,000 miles from the moon's surface. And from there, the crew spent the last 6 hours making all kinds of scientific observations. That crew breaking the human deep space record previously held by the Apollo 13 astronauts back in 1970. Now, this is a full circle moment as the astronauts woke up to a special pre-taped message from one of the only other people who have been almost that far.
Hello, Artemis 2. This is Apollo astronaut Jim Lovell. Welcome to my old neighborhood. When Frank Borman and Bill Andrews and I orbited the moon on Apollo 8, we got humanity's first up-close look at the moon and got a view of the home planet that inspired and united people around the world. I'm proud to pass that torch on to you as you swing around the moon and lay the groundwork for missions to Mars for the benefit of all. It's a historic day, and I know how busy you'll be, but don't forget to enjoy the view.
That was pre-recorded by Apollo astronaut Jim Lovell, who 2 months before his death last August. Now, Lovell, he was part of both Apollo 13 and Apollo 8, and that mission, Apollo 8, gave us this Earthrise picture where you can see Earth rising over the moon's horizon. Such an epic shot. And just in the last hour or so, the Artemis crew, they tried to recreate their own version. Now, if you're wondering, well, where are the pictures? Where's the HD video? It might be a little bit before we get the good stuff just yet. And as you can imagine, communication is still a little tricky. While they're experimenting with sending back 4K video via laser right now, it's still a work in progress, a lot of radio transmissions, and they just came out of this communication blackout as they went around the backside of the moon. But while we wait for that new stuff, there is still a lot of other cool stuff trickling in. Over the last few days, we've seen these HD videos coming in from Artemis's launch. And that one, you see part of the SLS rocket separating from the Orion spacecraft after launching into space. Look at that little teeny, I mean, it's just, the detail is incredible. And these new breathtaking images of Earth, we're also seeing those. Look, that's us. That's us from thousands of miles away. It reminds us just how brilliant, how fragile this majestic home really is. It is something that Artemis pilot Victor Glover reflected on this weekend, delivering these words in this Easter message.
You have this amazing place, this spaceship. You guys are talking to us because we're in a spaceship really far from Earth, but you're on a spaceship called Earth that was created to give us a place to live in the universe, in the cosmos. I think maybe the distance we are from you makes you think what we're doing is special, but we're the same distance from you, and I'm trying to tell you, just trust me, you are special. In all of this emptiness, this is a whole bunch of nothing, this thing we call the universe. You have this oasis, this beautiful place that we get to exist together.
You hear that? We are on this spaceship together, and right now, on this spaceship, hurling through space-time is you and me, Aaron Gilchrist. Great to see you. I know that we're separated by quite some distance right now, but that makes me feel like we're right next to each other. This is such a monumental moment. There's the history. There's also so much technical happening right now. I mean, losing line of sight is huge. Basically, for that short time, Mission Control, they were out of the driver's seat, and it was Artemis 2 and Gravity out there all alone. How did it go?
It went really well. And I feel like we've been saying that a lot during the course of the last 6 days, which is a good thing. Obviously, we want this sort of a mission to go really well. We know that during that about 40-minute window where there was no communication between Mission Control in Texas and the Orion capsule, the astronauts were able to continue working. They continued working, but they were able to do that sort of without somebody watching over their shoulder, right? They could just sort of enjoy the moment a little bit more. We're told that right now, they are about halfway through a little break. They were getting some time to just sort of wrap up from a day of doing these observations. They spent about 4.5, almost 5 hours doing observations that were set by the science team at NASA. They gave them a list of 30 things they wanted them to do while they were flying by the moon, including looking at an almost 4 billion year old crater on the moon, 600 miles wide, taking pictures of that, making verbal notations about what they were seeing, talking about the colors that they were seeing. We look at the moon and we think, oh, it's white or it's just sort of gray, right? Well, when you're closer and you've got great cameras, which they do now, you can see some of those other colors. They talked about seeing browns and we've heard about oranges and that sort of thing, the color, not the fruit, being seen on the moon. And so those are the sorts of things that they're reporting back to NASA, and the folks at in the science room at Mission Control have just been losing their minds today, getting to look at some of these images and getting back these reports about some things that we were aware of about the moon, but also things that they really wanted a lot more detail, a lot more information about, and they've been able to get some of that from this crew that's still coming out of the orbit of the moon. And Gotti, I think it's worth pointing out too, as you said, we know that we haven't gotten the pictures back. They're waiting till they get a little closer so they can start transmitting those images back to Earth and transmitting some of that video back to Earth, but it will be spectacular to see. So keep an eye out for it, potentially even before the night is done. Their night, not necessarily our night.
It's so funny. All of a sudden, like, there's generations on this planet now that will not get this reference, but all of a sudden I feel like we're all waiting for pictures to develop. Like back in the day when we would take a picture and we couldn't see it right away. Delayed gratification, very good for character for all of us down here. What does the next few days look like ahead of splashdown later this week?
So the first thing is actually tonight. Before they complete this lunar flyby, there is a solar eclipse that they'll be able to be a part of. They'll be able to make a record of that. Obviously, the NASA scientists want to see their pictures of what results from that, but they'll have their eclipse glasses. You remember a couple of years ago when so many of us were able to see that eclipse. They have similar glasses that they'll have to put on for the first, I think, about 2.5 minutes of the eclipse, and then they'll be able to look out the windows of Orion with their own eyes at this solar eclipse, not from the ground on Earth, but from the far side of the moon. They'll be able to see this. They'll be able to see the corona of the sun through that eclipse and take some images of that as well. And then we're told that tomorrow, day 7, flight day 7 for them, will be a little bit of a down day. They'll get to kind of relax a little bit as they are coasting back toward Earth. They'll do a Q&A session, we think, with the scientists back here on Earth. And then for the most part, Gotti, tomorrow they'll be able to just rest. There are some other tests and experiments that have to be run before the 10 days elapses. They'll have to do some work looking at radiation, for example, from the sun in outer space. That'll happen, I think, on day 8, Gotti.
Yeah, that'll be fascinating. I got to say, you know, speaking of that solar eclipse, like I got to be up in a plane during the last solar eclipse, and yeah, I've never been to space, but there was something that happened watching that solar eclipse happen when you're above Earth, and it was that you saw the moon's shadow projected on Earth in like this massive scale, right? Because you're up 30,000 feet. And then you just realize how fast we are moving, how fast the moon is moving, how fast Earth is rotating. I can't imagine what they are experiencing there. Incredible stuff. And yet, with all of this majesty, I do have to ask, like, what's the latest with the toilet on Artemis? Is the Orion head working these days?
It's the story we just can't seem to flush out, right? I mean, we keep running into these issues with the toilet in the Orion capsule, you know. So it's under the floor there, right? And apparently, at some point over the last couple of days, they ran into an issue where they think that a vent had frozen, and so they sort of reoriented the capsule so that the sun was hitting that side of the capsule to try to melt some of that ice away from the vent. Today, NASA told the crew that the toilet was no-go, so they can't use it for number one. And they've got some other ways that they get some bags, I think, that they're supposed to be using for that. But they're almost home. They'll be home soon. Just hold it.
Baggies. The backup plan, baggies. I love it. All right. Aaron Gilchrist, thanks so much. I want to bring in a retired NASA astronaut, Danny Olivas. Danny, always great to see you. I do want to talk a little bit more about the the poetry up there. There was this moment that really moved so many people back here on Earth. It was that moment where Jeremy Hansen, he started to wax so eloquently about what he was seeing. Let's take a listen real fast.
From the cabin of integrity here, as we surpass the furthest distance humans have ever traveled from planet Earth, we do so in honoring the extraordinary efforts and feats of our predecessors in human space exploration. We will continue our journey even further into space before Mother Earth succeeds in pulling us back to everything that we hold dear. But we, most importantly, choose this moment to challenge this generation and the next to make sure this record is not long-lived.
I mean, here are these space explorers who want their record broken ASAP, right? What does that mean for the next generation?
Well, and I think that's true for all astronauts, right? I mean, we explore for the benefit of all humanity, and we do so, and knowing that with every flight that we take, we move that progressive needle of science and understanding and technology, one step further along the path, and you do so because you want the next to take it, one step further. And I guarantee you the crew, and in fact, I mean, this whole mission architecture has been about setting us up for the next steps of the Artemis program, colonizing the moon, and then ultimately moving on deeper into deep space, specifically Mars. So it's all about progress. It's all about moving forward.
And we've been hearing so much about these observations, but one of the things I've been fascinated by is the testing of some tech that we're definitely going to be needing in the future. They've already needed it once. They're going to need it on the way back, these radiation monitors. First off, can you just give us explain it to us like we're six, walk us through why radiation is such a problem when we leave Earth's orbit, and what's all this talk about the Van Allen belt?
Yeah, so I mean, we here on Earth enjoy the fact that we've got a nice atmosphere, and we actually sit under another type of protection on the Earth. It's called a magnetosphere, which actually shields us from a lot of the radiation that's emitted from the sun, cosmic radiation, et cetera. We know that when we go out, and for example, in low Earth orbit, and we're that high up, and it's only 250 miles above the surface of the planet, so relatively close, we have increased amounts of radiation that we're exposed to. Now, if we end up heading to Mars, or when we end up heading to Mars, one of the biggest challenges would be keeping an astronaut alive to get there and not exposing them to a significant amount of radiation that could actually, kill them. So being able to shield yourself from radiation as you get up and out of the protection of Earth, and as you head over, to the moon, obviously even less of an influence of Earth, and so more exposure to radiation particles that are emitted from the sun. And then as you start heading out to Mars, it's a long journey, 7 to 9 months to get there, where you're basically, exposed to a lot of cosmic radiation. So the radiation countermeasures are a big part of what NASA has been studying to make sure that by the time we start doing more and more of these colonization of the moon and onto Mars, that we do so in a safe manner to keep the astronauts, safe and viable, so that they can come home to their families.
Danny Olivas, always a pleasure seeing you. Thank you so much. And back here on Earth, another threat to obliterate Iran in a matter of hours. President Trump dropping this F-bomb on Truth Social, threatening to strike civilian infrastructure there if they don't open the Strait of Hormuz immediately. Quote, Tuesday will be power plant day and bridge day, all wrapped in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. President Donald J. Trump. Well, today, Trump doubling down on those threats repeatedly. Take a listen.
The entire country could be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night. We're giving them till tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern time, and after that, they're going to have no bridges, they're going to have no power plants, Stone Ages, yeah. Every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding, and never to be used again. I mean, complete demolition by 12 o'clock. and it'll happen over a period of 4 hours if we wanted to.
All this as we are still learning about this highly complex rescue of an American airman after Iran shot down an F-15 fighter jet, forcing the weapons officer on board to then hike deep into the Iranian mountains before special ops forces saved him over the weekend, extracting him from enemy territory.
This was an incredibly dangerous mission, an incredibly dangerous undertaking, but a filled promise made to every American warfighter that you will not be left behind. We will always come find you, and we will always bring you home.
And we're going to be getting into the details of that rescue in just a sec. But first, let's go over to NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake. Garrett, because all this is happening, and we're also seeing a lot of talk about a ceasefire right now, and yet both Iran and the United States, they seem worlds apart on what that would actually look like, right?
Yeah, Gotti, and to be fair, I'm confused about it too, and I've been covering this conflict since the jump. The president, in his comments, has seemed to conflate the discussion about trying to end the war, to reach a deal to end the war, versus to reach a deal to have some kind of ceasefire, be it for 2 days or for 45 days or for some other length of time. Even today, essentially shutting down questions on that topic. Listen to this.
They've made a proposal, and it's a significant proposal. It's a significant step. It's not good enough, but it's a very significant step. They have made, they're negotiating now, and they've made a very significant step. We'll see what happens. I can't talk about ceasefire, but I can tell you that we have an active, willing participant on the other side. They would like to be able to make a deal. I can't say any more than that.
It's always a little wacky to see the president talk about something as serious as war and peace with the background of the Easter egg roll, but there we are. At least the bunny wasn't in that shot. I do think the key takeaway here from the president, Gotti, is that these negotiations, as he describes them, are still ongoing towards something. That deadline tomorrow night at 8 p.m. is really the key thing to watch. Does the president get something that sounds like a deal? Does he get an agreement to make an agreement later, like we had with Greenland? Something that allows him to punt that deadline, or does this war enter a whole additional new phase around this time tomorrow?
Yeah. As for these repeated threats, the president talking about hitting things like bridges or power grids there are a lot of questions on whether targeting civilian infrastructure would be possibly a war crime. What's the White House saying?
Yeah, and the rules are sometimes a little bit unclear and often very difficult to enforce. I noted that the president seems to have dropped talking about attacking water desalination plants, the things that provide so much of the drinking water across the Middle East, which, experts have said is sort of would be the clearest possible war crime if he were to hit something like that that has purely civilian uses. The president today largely brushed off these complaints, concerns, either feeling like he could defend legally destroying roads, bridges, power plants that might be used to somehow help Iran wage war, or perhaps knowing or feeling that this was a threat on which he would not have to follow through, Gotti. And I don't think we're going to know the answer to which of those, was in his mind, again, until about this time tomorrow.
Yeah. Meanwhile, what about the Strait of Hormuz? Because we also heard Trump saying this today, right?
If I had my choice, what would I like to do? Take the oil. Because it's there for the taking. There's not a thing they can do about it. Unfortunately, the American people would like to see us come home. If it were up to me, I'd take the oil, I'd keep the oil, I would make plenty of money. And I'd also take care of the people of Iran, much better than they've been taken care of.
Gary, how should we see this here?
Well, look, on taking the oil, this is actually something on which President Trump has been consistent for decades, going back to his times as just private citizen Trump. He has always felt that if you are fighting a war and you're winning, you should basically be able to take whatever you want from the people you're defeating. He's talked about taking the oil from Iraq, from Iran. Obviously, he thinks it has worked great to take as much Venezuelan oil as the United States is trying to claim right now. So on that, he's been pretty consistent. On opening the Strait of Hormuz, he has taken every conceivable position, from saying the U.S. doesn't need to do it at all, to saying our allies will do it, to saying it will happen naturally, to now today saying that it's going to have to be something that is negotiated with Iran because, and I think this is actually correct, any small number of people can effectively close the strait with just the threat of sea mines or a shoulder-fired missile. It doesn't take the kind of military force that a nation like Iran can put into play to be effective there. So while it's very much the president's preference, as he said today, to have some kind of fulsome either agreement or military effort to seize the oil, I think there's a recognition there that's not going to happen, at least not unless it's part of some huge negotiated settlement, which candidly we don't seem to be anywhere near tonight.
Yeah, it seems like this all continues. NBC's Garrett Hake, thank you so much. And now to that stunning rescue of the downed American airmen, that critical mission that the CIA director is comparing to finding a grain of sand in the desert. NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kube has the details.
The harrowing high-stakes mission began at 10:10 Thursday night, when the U.S. military says it got word an F-15 call sign Dude 44 was down, and its 2 airmen had ejected into hostile territory. The details of the operation shared by President Trump and military leaders today.
Over the next hours, the search and rescue task force crossed the beach, entered into Iranian airspace, protected by a fighter strike package, and moved into the objective area, all under fire.
The pilot was located first, with U.S. aircraft flying for 7 hours in broad daylight to rescue him.
Within hours, our armed forces deployed 21 military aircraft into hostile airspace, many flying at very low altitude, being shot by bullets.
An A-10 Warthog and HH-60 Jolly Green rescue helicopter both hit. The Warthog ultimately crashed, but the pilot ejected safely. Several troops on the helicopter were injured. But the second F-15 airman, a colonel and weapons systems officer, still missing. Finally, on Saturday morning, the CIA says it confirmed the officer was badly injured but alive and hiding in a mountain crevice.
He scaled cliff faces, bleeding rather profusely, treated his own wounds, and contacted American forces to transmit his location.
His first message was simple, and it was powerful. He sent a message: God is good.
The president says the dangerous rescue mission was in the dead of night.
The second rescue mission involved 155 aircraft, including 4 bombers, 64 fighters, 48 refueling tankers, 13 rescue aircraft, and more.
Some aircraft sent to the wrong area to confuse the Iranians about where the missing airman could be, while small helicopters picked him up and brought him to waiting planes. But wet sand grounded the planes, and replacement aircraft had to be brought in.
We blew up the old planes. We blew them up to smithereens.
Tonight, both airmen now safe and getting medical treatment.
At midnight 12 local Eastern time, Easter Sunday, more than 50 hours after the start of this operation, the Joint Personnel Recovery Center declared Dude 44 Bravo, both the front and back seater, return to friendly territory.
And NBC's Courtney Kube is joining us now. Courtney, do we know what brought down that F-15 in the first place?
Yeah, we do, Gotti, and it is fascinating. So despite the fact that the U.S. military has been taking out all of these missiles and sophisticated air defense systems, what we found out today from President Trump at the briefing was that, in fact, a heat-seeking shoulder-fired missile was what shot down that F-15, and just really proves how difficult the war in Iran is, because even as they have taken out thousands of targets now, including some of these more advanced air defense systems, what it shows is that one person with a portable missile system can disrupt the U.S. campaign for days, can cause this much damage, and can really put U.S. men and women in uniform directly in harm's way. These are systems that have been around for decades, and the notion that the U.S. military would be able to take them all out, it's pretty difficult to imagine, Gotti.
And we also heard Trump threatening jail time for whoever leaked this news about the U.S. pilot being rescued and the weapons officer still being out there. What do we know about that?
Yeah, that's right. We still don't know exactly if there was one specific report that he was targeting or he was upset about. The reality is the information about this F-15 being shot down first came from the Iranians and from Iranian state TV. That was and media. That was where everyone first heard about it. But we don't really know specifics about what President Trump was directly talking about. Here's exactly what he had to say.
But we have to find that leaker, because that's a sick person. Probably didn't realize the extent of how bad it was. I can't imagine that the person did, but we're going to find out. It's national security, and the person that did the story will go to jail if he doesn't say.
So again, it's not really clear if there was what it was specifically about the reporting that President Trump was so upset about here. Gotti.
And Courtney, obviously, any U.S. service member is priceless. Their life is priceless. And yet, you know, there's a lot of talk about how much the war is costing, especially after the rescue. You've got a loss of multiple C-130s, as well as those MH-6s. I mean, how much has the whole war in general cost so far? I know a running tab is hard to ballpark, but do you know what that figure is?
And it's not just that a running tab is hard to ballpark. It's that I can't imagine there are any 2 days that have had the same price tag here. So as you mentioned, in the earliest couple of days here, when there really was a tremendous amount of firepower that was being extended, and it was some of the more expensive systems, like Tomahawk missiles and standoff munitions, those days were most likely the most expensive of all. But this rescue mission, as you said, I mean, of course, the military has an ethos, and that includes leaving no one behind. But this was a costly mission in money and in firepower and in air power. So we heard today that the U.S. expended a number of different munitions just trying to clear the area around both of the airmen while they were on the ground, ensuring that no Iranians got to them. They also had to clear a path for the aircraft to make their way in, just to try to get to those airmen. And then, of course, there were a number of aircraft that were damaged or completely destroyed by this. As for what we know about so far was at least one A-10 Warthog. It's a single-seater fighter jet. We know about the two MC-130Js. You can see some of the damage from those here. Several of these small helicopters that were used to actually go in and get the second airman who was rescued over the weekend. And then we know of additional Reaper drones, expensive Reaper drones that were also shot down as part of this. So a tremendous amount of air power was damaged or destroyed as part of this mission as well. Again, you're right. The military said they were going in to get their men, and they did that, and no one is questioning that. But it definitely came at a high price tag.
Yeah, NBC's Courtney Kube. Thank you so much. Now let's bring in NBC News military analyst Colonel Steve Warren. Colonel, good to see you. Let's listen a little bit more to what the president said about the rescued airmen.
The F-15 we lost last week was the first manned aircraft downed by the enemy in this entire operation with thousands and thousands of flights. They got lucky. It was a lucky hit.
They got lucky, and as the president was suggesting elsewhere, like the United States might have also been lucky in pulling off this whole operation without a single loss. I got to ask, like, I mean, sitting in the commander's seat, sitting in the president's seat, like, what are the risk calculations of sending in so many soldiers for a mission like this?
It's a big risk calculation, isn't it? And I think General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, in one of our earlier clips, really laid it out. This is a pledge we make to ourselves when we're in the military. It is, as Courtney Kube described, part of our ethos, which is we will no man left behind. We will never leave a fallen comrade behind. So, you know, in my view as a soldier, there is no cost too high to pay. But that said, when you put several hundred other personnel at risk, that's something that needs to be calculated. Part of the reason, of course, again, we never want one of our people to fall into enemy hands. But in this case, in particular, the propaganda value for the Iranians would have been significant. Well, now we've put several hundred more people in a position where they, too, could be potentially captured. So it is risk, but I think what's most important to talk about in this risk calculation, Gotti, is that these hundreds of American service members who willingly volunteered to go behind enemy lines, to put their own lives at risk, to save our aviator, that is something that should be celebrated.
Yeah, they got that job done. I'm glad you did bring up the propaganda element to all of this, because I don't know what your algorithm looks like these days. Mine is just very wacky. I saw several pieces of, Iranian propaganda, which after you go down the rabbit hole, you're like, oh, I see where this is coming from. They were pretty convincing. They seem to be claiming this as a victory for them. Obviously, here in the United States, we're hearing this as a rescue mission, and it's a victory here, but big picture, do you see this, what we saw play out over the weekend, affecting the overall trajectory of the war?
Gady, what a great question. That's the strategic question, isn't it? And the short answer, I'll tell you, is no, I don't. Quite frankly, I think the American military, who is, at risk here, commanded by the U.S. Central Command Commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, they are not going to change how they do business. We understand that it's a war, Gady, it's a war. So it is risky, it is dangerous, we understand all of those things, but the United States military, they are going to accomplish the missions that have been given to them by their commander-in-chief. I have no doubt about that. Now, on the strategic side, the President of the United States, how is he factoring all of this in? It was a close call, right, for the President. It was a close call for him. So what we don't understand is how this is going to affect the President's calculus, because predicting the President's calculus is a fairly risky business in and of itself.
Yeah, it sure is. Colonel Steve Warren, always appreciate your insight. Thank you so much. And heading into this war, there is no doubt that you've heard this many times, the President and his administration saying this is about the United States trying to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, right? Listen.
So many people say, oh, well, why are you doing this way? We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon. We're never going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon.
But a while ago, in a very different time, it was the United States who first introduced Iran to nuclear technology. That was more than 60 years ago. It was the United States that first gave them the Tehran research reactor back when Washington and Tehran were allies. So here's a little bit more about how we got to where we find ourselves today.
It was a decision that stunned much of the world, the United States joining Israel in a direct military strike on Iran. And shortly after those missiles began to fall, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was asked about the war's legal justification.
Let me explain to you guys this in simple English, okay? Iran is run by lunatics, religious fanatic lunatics.
Rubio said that on March 3rd, but sentiments like that go back decades. In 1951, Iran elected a man named Mohammad Mossadegh as prime minister, who eventually nationalized Iran's oil industry. At the time, Britain controlled Iran's oil wealth and saw nationalization as a direct threat.
Dr. Mossadegh, speaking in French, reiterated the Persian attitude to the oil dispute.
To ensure the UK had access to Iranian oil, British intelligence conspired with the CIA to overthrow Iran's democratically elected leader and reinstall the Shah as absolute ruler. That conspiracy long denied by the U.S. government until a striking admission in 2009.
For many years, Iran has defined itself in part by its opposition to my country. In the middle of the Cold War, the United States played a role in the overthrow of a democratically elected Iranian government.
During the Shah's return to power and authoritarian crackdown on dissent, Iran and the U.S. had a strong relationship. The U.S. even helping Iran set up its nuclear program in the 60s. But the alliance could not stop the Iranian Revolution in 1979, when street demonstrations inspired by Shiite religious leaders erupted until the government collapsed. That's when the U.S.-backed Shah fled, and a Shiite cleric known as Ayatollah Khomeini rose to power, giving birth to an Islamic republic.
Khomeini, almost unknown outside of Iran just a few months ago, returned a hero, the man who from long distance had led the revolution to topple the Shah.
Strict new rules were imposed, thousands were killed, and hundreds of thousands more fled the country. Meanwhile, the Shah was allowed by President Jimmy Carter to come to the United States for cancer treatment, which Iran's new leaders saw as the U.S. protecting an old ally. In protest of Carter's decision, hundreds of Iranian students stormed the U.S. embassy and took hostages.
The American embassy in Tehran is in the hands of Muslim students tonight.
The Iranians burned a United States flag and denounced the U.S. government. saying they would stay until the U.S. sends the deposed Shah back to Iran.
52 Americans would be held for over 444 days. Years later, that crisis remains the prism that many Americans, including those in Hollywood, have seen Iran through.
Everything. Our embassy has been seized and more than 60 American citizens continue to be held as hostages.
If we're going to go, then we need to go now.
The Iran hostage crisis setting off more decades of hostilities between the two countries. The U.S. imposing sweeping sanctions and designating Iran as a state sponsor of terrorism. Those hostilities even seeping into American pop culture and spilling into living rooms.
Let me talk to the man who is currently the reigning World Wrestling Federation champion from Iran, the Iron Sheik.
The former Iranian soldier became one of pro wrestling's most notorious heels. Meanwhile, the geopolitical picture darkened.
Iraqi soldiers run for cover. For the first time in days, Iranians advanced to their side of the riverbank at Khorram Shah and shot across the Shatt el-Arab River.
The U.S. backing Saddam Hussein when Iraq invaded Iran in the 80s. Then in 1988, the U.S. Navy shot down an Iranian passenger jet, killing 290 people on board. Washington calling it a terrible accident, Tehran calling it a war crime. Years later, post 9/11, the rhetoric toward Iran hardened. President George W. Bush lumping it in with North Korea.
States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world.
What's happening now echoing a past that started more than 70 years ago and has never really stopped.
And don't go anywhere. Coming up next, we are going to show you this wild video of a moment a Ferris wheel collapsed in India. More on what happened there. Plus, rapper Ye is facing controversy as calls are growing for his removal as the headliner for a London music festival over his past anti-Semitic remarks. That's later this hour, so stay tuned.
All right, we got what was that, Carter? Wait, hold on. I saw something. Hogan lookalike video. Faith makes Carter. Wait, shoot, I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to read that Carter thing. Space update. I can't. Oh well. They hit our fighter jet because they blew up the main bridge. Maybe. Yes, possibly. But maybe they also hit the fighter jet because they had a clean shot. And, you know, they're getting. Let's see. Dude, are you on TV and doing a live? That's right. Alex Gonzalez. Here's what we're doing. This is a new experimentation. Two-way street during the commercial breaks. You watch a commercial, but we can also chat right here. And then when it goes back to the show, then we'll do the full show like this, and you'll see it over here, and then you can also see this. And then this is my iPad, so we can talk throughout the show. And whenever I can, I will be following along in the chat. Artemis 2 has begun space flight to the moon. That's right. We've been following that. Dude. Got to follow Alex. Thanks, man. Thanks so much, Grayson.
15.
On the eclipse. Here we go. All right, we're going to headlines next. You guys ready? You guys want some headlines? Because this video is pretty wild.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some headlines that we are watching tonight. Earlier today, the Supreme Court cleared the way for the Trump administration to dismiss the criminal case against Steve Bannon over his refusal to comply with congressional subpoenas tied to January 6. Now, Bannon served 4 months in jail and was released in October 2024. The case is now up to the district court where it's expected to be dismissed. And a packed Ferris wheel in India was caught on video tipping over at a fair. That left some people underneath trapped. According to local reports, several people were hurt. They were taken to the hospital, and it is still unconfirmed what caused that collapse. And the Super Mario Galaxy movie, well, it delivered its biggest opening of the year for a Hollywood movie. This is the industry's biggest debut since Avatar: Fire and Ash came out last Christmas. Animated film earned more than $130 million this weekend domestically. It's already passed $370 million worldwide. And a passenger on a Caribbean Airlines flight went into labor while flying from Jamaica to New York, and just as the flight started to land, she gave birth. According to the airline, both the mom and the newborn were attended by medical personnel and the crew. They managed the procedures, and I guess you could definitely say that flight had an early arrival. And the UCLA women's team took home the NCAA title last night. The Bruins were up against South Carolina. They won 79-51. That victory marks the first national title win in the program's history. And this morning, we saw an emotional homecoming on the Today Show. Our friend and colleague, Savannah Guthrie, is back after 2 months away as the search for her missing mom continues. She says her faith has helped carry her forward, and here's more on her heartfelt return to Studio 1A.
Good morning. Welcome to Today on this Monday morning. We are
surrounded by symbols of hope, including that vibrant yellow all over the studio. Savannah Guthrie came back home.
We are so glad you started your week with us, and it is good to be home.
And with one simple message.
Well, here we go. Ready or not, let's do the news.
Yes, so good to have you back. All right.
She did what she has done for years, guided us through the morning.
SG, come on out here. Come on back up.
And when Savannah went out on the plaza, amid a sea of signs and more yellow ribbons, viewers brought a message to her.
Good morning.
They've been waiting for you.
How does it feel?
These signs are so beautiful. You guys have been so beautiful. I've received so many letters, so much kindness to me and my whole family. We feel it. We feel your prayers. So thank you so much.
It's not just today. They've been out here
every day.
Every day.
Her mother, Nancy, now missing for 65 days. Through it all, Savannah says her faith has kept her going. And on this Easter Sunday, she shared a message with her church.
I have questioned whether Jesus really ever experienced this particular wound that I feel. This grievous and uniquely cruel injury of not knowing, of uncertainty and confusion, and answers withheld.
But in the face of that uncertainty, today, as she said she would, she chose joy as her protest.
It is the darkness that makes this morning's light so magnificent, so blindingly beautiful. It is all the brighter because it is so desperately needed. This is what we celebrate. And I celebrate too. I still believe.
Well, we believe with you, Savannah. Tom, thank you so much for that. And if you have information that could bring Nancy home, please call the FBI tip line on your screen, 1-800-CALL-FBI. And coming up, a close call after a fiery motorcycle crashes right near some kids. What happened after the driver was thrown right into those flames? 90 seconds. All right, 90 seconds. Okay, chat, we're back. The uncertainty would be horrible. I know, and it's so weird, and it hits you throughout the day. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like for Savannah, but you know, just so often we're all reminded that that question is still unanswered, and it is just it's heart-wrenching. So we're praying for Nancy. Let's see here. Everyone we see on TV is family and friends. Interesting.
1 minute.
How does so? I know, Amanda. I have no idea. Irish Island on Twitch. I would love to do that. We should. We could probably do that in 90 seconds. And it starts with the overview effect, which is why we led with space. If we all saw that we are on this fragile planet and that life is not promised, it is a freaking miracle, then I think we'd be in a much better place. So, you know, that's my soapbox. That's all soapboxing you'll hear from me, but space is the solution. And just looking back at where we are in the cosmos, that's a really good start. All right, we got 20 seconds. Trying to get a little existential here. Speaking of which, let's talk AI, super intelligence, artificial general intelligence, gatekeeping coming up right now.
7.
Ready? 5 seconds.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. A home security camera in Texas captured the moment this motorcycle burst into flames after crashing into a sidewalk. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler breaks down this video for us.
It all happened so quickly.
A fireball erupting on the corner in a San Antonio neighborhood. A motorcycle bursting into flames, sending shocked kids running. Watch the frightening close call. This rider losing control, sliding behind his bike as it explodes into flames, slamming into a curb just feet from kids and a playground. Still on fire, the biker runs to put the flames out.
I was just baffled why there was a motorcycle on fire in my neighbor's yard.
Robert Perez lives across the street and captured this wild video.
It just was incredible that none of those children were hurt. When I saw the video and I saw the motorcycle flying in the air and the flames, it was nothing short of a miracle that they didn't get injured in the process.
Firefighters arrive minutes later, the bike mangled on charred ground. NBC's San Antonio affiliate reporting the biker said he was riding too fast and is now recovering after surgery. According to the county sheriff's office, he suffered second-degree burns. The investigation continues as this neighborhood is shaken but grateful that all are safe tonight. Ryan Chandler, NBC News.
Geez, such a close call. Ryan Chandler, thank you. And now overseas, a source in the United Kingdom tells NBC News that UK officials are reviewing whether rapper Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, will be allowed into the country. This is all coming as festival organizers face mounting pressure to drop Ye as the headliner for a major 3-day music event in London this summer over his past anti-Semitic remarks. Pepsi, the festival's main sponsor, has already pulled out. Now let's bring in NBC's Jesse Kirsch, who's following this for us. Jesse, Ye has apologized for his anti-Semitic remarks before. There was that Wall Street Journal ad. Then back in 2023, I think he did on Instagram too. But are any of those apologies factoring into what we're seeing today?
Well, Gotti, I just want to also elaborate a little bit more on what you touched on there. 2023, he puts out an apology. Just over a year after that, he posts about loving Hitler. So this is someone who has a track record of making an apology, returning to hateful rhetoric. So I think a question on people's minds right now is, will this time actually be different, or is this just lip service? That is something that is yet to be seen. As for if it's making a difference with fans, there's certainly some, whether they have returned to him or were with him all along, that are welcoming his music back. Bloomberg has a report out saying that his 2 shows recently at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles earned $33 million. They are citing unnamed people, but here's something that just puts this into context. His Friday show, according to Bloomberg, brought in $18 million in ticket sales, and that, according to Bloomberg, is one of the highest grossing single shows in the history of live music. So clearly there are at least some people out there who are willing to continue paying to see him perform, despite what he has done time and again now, Gotti.
Yeah, and Jesse, we've seen Pepsi pulling out. What's Ye's camp saying about all this?
Yeah, we've reached out to Ye's team. We have not heard from them at this point on this matter. But I also want to bring in the organizers of this festival as well, that is supposed to take place in London over the summer. I believe we have a portion of the statement from the executive director from that event, and making a point of saying, by the way, this executive director also called his comments, Ye's comments on Jewish people, abhorrent. But in part, this statement says we are not giving him a platform to extol opinion of whatever nature, only to perform the songs that are currently played on the radio stations in our country and the streaming platforms in our country and listened to and enjoyed by millions. But of course, Gotti, that then begs the question, you are giving this person platform. He has created a music empire, and then that has given him, right, the audience to share other thoughts on other matters as well. And at this point, it's becoming a question of not if this festival, it seems, is going to do anything about pulling him from the lineup, but the question now is, will the British government go so far as to ban him from entering the country? And we know, according to a United Kingdom government source, that is something that is being discussed within the British government tonight, the possibility of preventing Ye from coming to the United Kingdom to perform.
Jesse Kirsch, thank you. And coming up in the future of everything, digging into a new effort by lawmakers who are hoping to gatekeep key AI chip-making equipment from China and the race to superintelligence. That's just ahead.
Cleared. 2 minutes.
All right. Jesse Guidewire, you're one of my favorite commenters, but my mind is already blown with what you were talking about when it comes to touching metal and metal in space and then basically welding it together. And now you're talking about quantum computers talking to each other and using that to like figure out maybe the decoherence stuff. I can't. Obviously, if you've been watching long enough, you see the ADHD on full display. It's one of the reasons why I like doing this thing that we do here and also doing the news and all this. But comments like that will just rip my brain into 17 different directions. DM me that kind of stuff, because how am I supposed to concentrate on anything now that I'm wondering about the quantum computers talking to each other and maybe working on like canceling out the signals
1 minute.
and the noise issue with, this is hard. Doing the news and thinking about a bunch of different things is very hard. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about another choke point that is very important for us to focus on, and it is one of those very few companies on planet Earth that is doing the lithography, that chip making magic that like humans can't even fathom because it's on the microscopic level. Like, we are engineering stuff so small, it is mind blowing. We're going to be talking about that right now, but pay attention because this is a company that everybody should know. Here we go.
20.
Whew. All right, got to get back in the game here.
Going B to G.
B to G.
To the desk.
B to G, my shoes untied. All right, here we go.
5, 4, 3 to animation.
And tonight, in the future of everything, just like the Strait of Hormuz is a choke point for the world's oil, there's one company that is a choke point for all things AI. And no, we are not talking about NVIDIA. We are talking about, and remember these 4 letters, ASML. ASML is a Dutch company, and they are the only ones that make these lithography machines, which is the engineering magic behind making those tiny, tiny chips for AI. They are literally etching a microscopic nanometer scale, a trench there that is 1,000 times smaller than a human hair. And in the AI race against China, the U.S. wants to gatekeep this kind of tech as much as possible. Last week, Congress introduced a bill that would tighten AI exports to China even more, including from ASML. Let's bring in NBC's AI fellow Jared Perlow, who's been following this for us. Jared, good to see you. Okay, so what exactly are these machines that China and the United States need to make AI chips? And I know that we can't really get into how they work, but how do they work?
Well, great to see you, Gotti. So these are some of the most complicated machines that humans have ever made. So semiconductor manufacturing is a really complicated process. And however complicated you're imagining right now, multiply it by a factor of 100, something like that. It's just really, really difficult to make these chips. Now, this manufacturing process involves 6 different steps. One of these steps, as you mentioned, is called lithography. And that's where this Dutch company, ASML, has a near monopoly on the manufacturing of the machines behind these semiconductors. So Japan, the Netherlands, and the U.S. manufacture. They're home to the companies that manufacture most of the critical equipment here. And this choke point on lithography is key. So ASML makes a couple different types of these machines. The most advanced is called extreme ultraviolet lithography, and the slightly less advanced is called deep ultraviolet lithography. And that's what this bill that you mentioned really targets.
And I get gatekeeping U.S. tech, but how does the United States gatekeep Dutch tech here?
Well, it gets a little complicated. We go deep into Department of Commerce bureaucracy. But basically, the government asserts the right, the American government asserts the right to control and export control any piece of technology that involves or is a direct product of American technology. So these machines from ASML, they're built in part on American technology. They involve different components that are made in America or by American companies. And so the U.S. government says, OK, even though you're based in the Netherlands, you're still subject to our rules, our export controls. And that's what Congress is trying to change here.
And in terms of home growing, because I mean, it's ASML, it's TSMC.
I mean, so much of this, any country would want to create this and to have this technology homegrown. I know the United States is desperately trying to do that in Arizona and other parts of the United States, but like, is China trying to homegrow this stuff too? Are they close?
Yeah, absolutely. And Xi Jinping realizes just how important this is. So it's kind of the choke point of all choke points in this AI competition. China's been increasing the amount of machinery of this equipment that they've been importing over the past decade or so. So it went from around $10 billion in 2016 to around $50 billion in 2025. And they're working on indigenizing and creating their own domestic industry. But all the experts I talked to say that they're about 5 to 10 years behind. These machines are really, really complicated, and it just takes incredible technological know-how to be able to create their own machines. So I think lawmakers are basically trying to keep the cat in the bag, because as soon as they can create their own machines, then all the leverage the U.S. has in this debate is really kind of gone.
Yeah, 5 to 10 years. I mean, these days, that is basically a century. Jared Perlow, really appreciate your coverage. Thanks so much. And still to come, how a kid's hospital is helping young patients feel a little less anxious, one sensory station at a time. But first, you got to see this. Someone captured this crazy moment when an airplane in Allentown, Pennsylvania, had to make an emergency landing. Where else? On the highway. On Saturday, that plane was having engine issues, had to land on a busy interstate. According to cops, 2 people on board, they are doing just fine, but they're definitely gonna be late to wherever they were headed. We'll be right back. That is a highway because of the, nah, that was a dumb joke. That was a bad dad joke. I tried. All right, guys, because of the knock issue, the rest of the show you guys have to watch on TV. NBC News Now, just turn it on. You'll be able to see it. Last thing. But we can talk a little bit while this commercial break goes through. And there's an update. I don't see the chat until I update, unfortunately. Brian Fritsch, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, it'd be nice to figure out a way to consolidate the chat. And it'd be nice that the people that are in the chat could see everybody's chat. I'd love to do it right here on the screen. Section 230 legally makes an issue for us, but you know, we're working on it. Let's see. Dave is digital. You're welcome. The knock issue, NOC. It's this tech issue that we're dealing with, like NBC and all the different pipes that are streaming around. It's complicated, but basically we pre-recorded that segment a little bit earlier, and it will go out through playback of this thing called the knock. And we don't know how to route the knock back to the West Coast feed. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I'm not a technical guy. But I will say, Kevin on Twitch, who's monitoring this, he is the dude that put all this together. I was like, do you think that I could have a little station where I could punch this stuff up and hit this, and then hit this, and then hit this, and then hit this, and then make it look, and then we could chat, and we could do this stuff, and we can show different things? And Kevin was like, sure, and then boom, coded it, and now we have it with OBS as well. So thanks, Kevin. Let's see. Thanks so much. Hey, Twitch, come. We're going to do this every single day, same time. 4:45 on the West Coast, 7:45 on the East Coast, and then we'll just give you the news right here. It's mainstream. It's as mainstream as you get. And you know what? Mainstream gets a really bad rap sometimes, but I think mainstream is super important. It is that beautiful, you know, middle ground of nuance. That's what I'm all about. And if we can provide that middle ground of nuance, get all of your analysis and your hot takes and all that stuff, you should always be getting those things, but you want to have the nuanced conversations too. Don't lose sight of that. That's where mainstream comes in. What? Richie, your dad was my Spanish teacher in Spanish. What a great guy. And a G. Wait, did you go to Albuquerque High? Are you in Burke? Let's do this. What is Gotti? Twitch on TikTok. I'm on Twitch now too. Let's see. Guys, this is going to cut me off in just a bit here, but the latest on Lisa is she should be coming back hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Same name like mine, SML. Dude way. We do report the real news. Did you not watch? It was an hour long. It took us all day to put it together, and it takes us all day every single day. And we talk to people in the first person. It's very important. Let's see.
I want to see that screenshot. Tina, I can't wait to see what you did. Let's see. And Irish Island, Super Future. Okay, guys, I think that's it. I got to go home. But guys, tomorrow, same time, same place. News on TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, wherever else. Let's go. Asta.